You are listening to episode 149 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John, and this week I'm joined by Ryan.
Hey everybody, here at the Game Deflators Podcast, we like to talk about games we've recently picked up, games we're currently playing, and we're trapped like rats in today's inflation-deflation challenge.
So, trap like rats. Are you sure it was rats or mice? It was rats.
Dude, either way, I feel like Kruty should be well on his way to becoming a level 2 adventurer.
Yeah, so we played
classic.
What was it? Krusty Super Fun House?
Krusty Super Fun House for the Super Nintendo.
And Super It
Okay.
was. Super okay.
This is super okay.
All right, so this week we've got some interesting news afoot. The first one is N64 Classics may finally be coming to the Switch, says an insider. Although this insider, I believe, also said that the Game Boy games are coming. And, well, we've seen how that's gone so far. If my mouse would work right, I could get to the next scene here on what's in our notes. The saga behind the new PS5 heatsink explained. And China sets up a platform to police gaming firm violations, which... I think we've talked about both these in the past. Obviously, the heatsink we talked about like several episodes ago. And then China and their platform, we actually had talked about, probably like 20 or 30 episodes ago. It's been quite a while. But, oh my God, dude, my mouse does not want to work. You may have to control this mouse today. Because I think
we have been having issues with mice all morning. First in Super Fun House and now in real life.
And now this, yeah.
Digital mice.
We are good. I think the battery's going to die on this bad boy. So that would explain a lot of why when I'm working, because I use wireless, why my mouse just like stops in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And it's not a signal matter.
Charge your mice.
Yeah, I need to charge it.
Get new batteries for your mice, people. Treat your mice well and they'll treat you well.
I think those batteries are 2 or 3 years old now. So, but recent pickups and currently playing, well, I got a new phone. That was my new pickup. So I got a OnePlus 8T, and I like it. So my wife has been getting on my case for the last, I don't know, like 4 months to get a new phone because my other one was having so many issues. And I finally was just like, screw it, I'll get a new phone.
What's the first game you played on your new phone, John?
Nothing. No, the first game. If we count it, the Game Deflators Podcast, episode 148.
That's not a game. But it is a great way for you to spend your time. And if you're interested in checking that out, or any of our other wonderful episodes, you can do that on any of the wonderful podcast platforms out there. You can check us out on our website. You can check us out on our social medias, at Game Deflators on Twitter, at The Game Deflators everywhere else.
And as Ryan forgot to say, our URL, thegamedeflators.com.
Yes.
Yeah. So good stuff. Leave reviews in there.
So you're not a big mobile game player, right?
No, not really. I mean, unless you consider Snake. But I don't have a Nokia anymore. So.
Yeah, I dabble slightly in mobile games. Is that all your pickups this week?
I'm trying to think of anything else. I think that was it. Oh, I bought some CDs. Some
CDs
music.
don't count on the podcast.
I know they don't. And then but what does count
Who buys
is
CDs.
Somebody that likes to listen to CDs and collect the artwork. Thank you very much. You were talking to somebody who has like 2,000 video games just sitting there.
Yeah, I
with
know,
artwork.
But you could. Yeah, that's different though.
Dude,
I'm not a big music person for anybody out there.
Actually,
don't hate.
So what I am going to do though is my old phone, my OnePlus 5T. I'm going to take that, completely wipe it, and then load it with MP3s that I have, that I've had for years. So I'm going to upload that and then utilize that as my new way to play music in my car because it actually is through Bluetooth. So all I got to do is just put whatever I want and then have my full battery.
Spotify.
I could, but I can't. Well, I don't pay for Spotify and I don't want to pay for Spotify. And I can just have tons of music, some of which is not on Spotify. I have a lot of MP3s and stuff from over the years, from just CDs I'd purchased and put on my computer and transferred via iTunes years ago, and just other CDs that people gave me. And there's bands that you could search them up on Spotify. You're not going to find them on Spotify. So that's kind of where it comes down to, is like a lot of those no-name bands that I have. So there's that, and then. Yeah, the phone itself, dude, just to talk a little bit about that one. So pretty cool. It's got like a warp charger to it. And it can fully charge my phone from like 0 to 100% in like 20 minutes. And it has like 8 hours of battery life.
Watch the battery go up.
Dude, it's insane. Like it's funny when you plug in. I'll show you after we record. You plug in, this little thing comes up, it's like, and then it just has like the numbers like going up quickly.
Yeah,
and it's insane. I'm like, we played D&D the other night, and when we finished D&D, we came home, of course, and I was like, well, gotta let the dog out and all that good stuff. Gotta go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, everything before we go to bed. I was like, let me just put my phone to charge, and when it's done, I'll just walk over and grab it. And dude, it was cool because it's like 100% right off the bat, just from, I think it was at like 60 or 70. So like between the time it took me to like get ready, take the dog out and all that good stuff, my phone was fully charged. So it was really nice. So definitely look into the OnePlus phones if you haven't before. It's pretty much the alternate to, your Google Pixels and your Samsung devices and iPhones and all that good stuff. You're going to get a lot of those same really cool features. So dude, I'm pulling 256 gigabytes of space in this thing, 120 hertz refresh, 48 megapixel camera, relatively large screen. I think it has 12 gigabytes of RAM on it, as well as a Snapdragon 865 processor, which is the equivalent to a lot of those phones that are out there. In fact, it's stronger than my wife's phone, and hers is a 2021 Google Pixel 5, I think, and mine is a 2020 release. So it's pretty cool. I'm happy with it. I like big phones. So, all right. So that was all that I picked up. And then as far as what I'm currently playing right now, I beat Ori and the Blind Forest with my wife. So
nice.
Yeah, dude, we enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun. We didn't 100% it or anything like that, but it was a good game overall, and we were pretty stoked about it. There was some of the stuff towards the end started to get pretty challenging, and she was just like, nope, you take it from here. And I was like, all right, that's cool. So like the final, I don't know names, obviously. So the final like boss battle where you're like running away, spoiler alerts, from like this giant bird or owl or whatever that they have in the game. And it's just insane because like the whole thing is just one run. You can't screw up. And it's like swooping down to kill you while you've got fire chasing you and all these other crazy enemies and stuff coming your way. And it pretty much took everything that you built up within a game, all your different abilities, and you kind of had to use a lot of them in that final area.
That's what you want in a good final level, final boss, is the culmination of all the actions that you've been building. And that's always the thing that I've heard that makes Ori great, is just how much it builds on itself and like really layers, and you feel like really rewarded and successful of mastering all the different things that you learn throughout.
And we could have easily mastered a lot of the other stuff. Like there was probably, I think, like 6 abilities that we didn't master, like total, like 6 little spheres. So we didn't master everything, and by all means we didn't get every single health buildup or anything along those lines, but we did enough that the final, like it was challenging enough on the final boss area, the final run through, which was essentially a speed run. And we just enjoyed it. And so right after that, we popped in.
I should look up an Ori speedrun.
Oh, God, man, it's probably insane. And then we ended up ended up pulling out Rise of a Tomb Raider on PS4. So booted that up. That's pretty cool so far. Definitely enjoying that. And the last thing is I'm still playing God of War. I actually dug into a little bit more this week. I finished up Alfheim.
Okay.
Yep, so I finished that area up. And then I went into... There was like some vault I needed to go into of like some dwarf that collected a bunch of stuff. And when you go there, the ghost of his dad or something is like, oh no, he's disappeared, blah, blah, like long ago. Exited that. And then I've entered, I'm trying to think of where it is. It's just another like cavern based system in the game. And I'm trying to think of like what it was called. I don't remember offhand. Dude, I'm terrible with locations, but I'm thoroughly enjoying the game. I'm enjoying the boost at this point. I was talking with Chris last week, Old Ass Retro Gamer, with him on filling in. And one of the things that we had talked about is getting used to like the equipment and such and having to build that up and leveling that, because I'm not used to like that component. I'm used to, oh yeah, you've got, you know, Kratos' weapons, and oh yeah, you get these new abilities, and it kind of builds from there. I'm not used to like equipment management for, you know, Kratos. And so that's
definitely, there's different ways you could build. Like I was really building towards like the magic and the powers and stuff. Yeah. More so than other things. But I mean, it's just such a good game.
I'm still so early on that there's not much for me to do as far as, you know, trying to build things up. Like everything outside of strength's like in the 80s. Everything else is like in the teens outside of my defense, which I think is like 30. And yeah, I mean, all my like equipment is probably level 3, level 4 at most. So still very early on in the game, but I am enjoying it. I'm enjoying the, ripping enemies apart, and Atreus, I actually remembered a name for once, and just like his bow and the equipment upgrades for him and the cool things you can do with that character. So I'm liking it. So we'll see how this continues. Oh, I just got past. You'll get an idea of where I'm at then. I just got past when you clear out the black smoke coming from the side of a mountain. So I just entered the mountain.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how far that is, but I'm sure it's early on.
I don't really remember. It's been so long at this point.
All right, man. Well, did you get anything?
So, lots of stuff going on this week. So I started screwing around with my new phone a bit more, and I got Genshin Impact, and I think that it's pretty interesting so far. I think it's absolutely gorgeous, and it looks really cool. So I'm messing around with that a bit. I'm trying to set up the crossplay thing with the PlayStation, but I started on the phone first, and I guess it's easier to go from PlayStation to phone than start on phone and go to PlayStation. So I actually had to uninstall it off my PlayStation. I'm going to try to reinstall it and see if I could get it to work this time. And I had to do something that I'd never done before. For the PlayStation, I had to set up port forwarding to open my NAT type connection on my router so that I could use the other band on my router. Like, for some reason, it wasn't working before. I just didn't know. So I switched it over, and I got way better internet now. So that'll work.
I've been wanting to play Genshin potentially on, because I played on the PS4 a little bit, not too much. I wanted to play it on the PC, but I heard that you can't do playing on the PC and play on the PS4 continuation. Can you do that on the phone?
It's supposed to be crossplay like that.
Yeah, so I don't think it is for PC. I mean, maybe something's changed since then, but I recall that I could not do any sort of crossplay between PS4 and PC.
I don't know. I haven't looked into it really too much on PC stuff. Also tried Magic the Gathering Arena on the phone. That's been having some issues and not really booting up the last couple days, so I haven't delved into that too much. Also, the Xbox Cloud Gaming, I was going to show you this earlier. I definitely want to get one of those controller mounts for my phone. I'll have to modify it a little bit.
I was going to say, how the hell are you going to fit up?
Well, I do have a little metal plate here so that I could put magnets in one of the controller things and just makeshift it up a little bit, and that should be fine.
After we record, I need to see your case, because how? How does that So if you didn't hear last week, Ryan got the
Z Fold 3.
Yeah, the Z Fold 3 by Samsung, which pretty much has two phones in one, essentially. And yeah, it's really cool. But the one thing I question Ryan on is how the hell do you case this thing? And now I see a case, and
this just wraps around the edge here.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Okay, continue. Cloud gaming
on the phone, awesome. Yeah. Because I was playing Psychonauts on Game Pass on my Series S, I can just pick up right where my save data is on my phone and play, and that's actually really cool. And once I have the controller, there's even touchscreen controls for some games. I was playing a little bit of, oh god, what was it?
A touchscreen game.
Yeah, I booted something up on here. Oh, Dragon Quest 11. But I was out of the house and not in an area with Wi-Fi. It was really laggy. So I don't know if that's something, if you were out somewhere where you had a decent connection, that'd be one thing, but probably at a busy breakfast restaurant wasn't the best play to really test it out on.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep running some experience with those and see how that goes and how much. I've never really been huge into mobile gaming, but I mean, this really breaks the mold on that. Hitman 2, I picked up on PS Plus. Not really interested in Predator Hunting Grounds. And then I'm getting very excited. We were talking earlier, Magic, Innistrad Midnight Hunt comes out at the end of the next week.
I'm stoked.
So I'm really pumped for that. Like I said, mostly playing Genshin and Magic Arena a little bit. Do want to finish Psychonauts. Do have to finish Mario. Lots of cool stuff coming up soon.
Well, and then beating me in Magic today.
I did.
Yeah.
With my elephant deck.
That was disgusting. I was not expecting that. So
Nobody expects the elephants.
Nobody expects elephants. Yeah. And nobody forgets the elephants.
Yep, you never forget the elephants.
Yeah. It was brutal. So I tried to do a little playtesting of Ryan with my Legacy Goblin deck, which is not fully built, mind you. And I was able to beat him one time, and it was kind of nasty, the one game I beat you.
Yeah.
But
that was brutal.
It wasn't fast enough, so I got to make it faster. And there's ways to do that, but it costs money.
Right.
So
much money.
It's going to take a while. It's like $600 in cards to make it the way it needs to. So we'll see. Anything else?
That's pretty much it for me.
Okay. Well, let's jump into our first article here and really our first discussion. So the N64 Classics finally coming to Switch, says Insider. This is Ewan Moore of Gaming Bible. And so I want to say it was him, or it might have been Kotaku that we were, reading before. But
so the actual insider is Nate Drake.
Okay, and that's who I think we had referenced last go round of like the Game Boy games, if I recall. But either way, so we were speculating on Game Boy games kind of coming on to the Nintendo Switch, part of online and whatnot. And it was supposed to happen Saturday, so yesterday. They were thinking it was going to happen because of the anniversary of the Game Boy. Did not happen. Now there's speculation that they'll be bringing in Nintendo 64 games onto the Nintendo Switch, which it's kind of leading me into this question, dude, of what is Nintendo's like overall game plan here? Because they're taking a lot of these retro games and they've been, re-releasing them in certain manners, right? Is this a situation where Nintendo is kind of potentially going to start looking into creating new IPs? Are they going to be doing remasters or just general, like, not even reboots, but like sequels potentially to a lot of these games that they're putting onto their virtual console? Or is this a matter of Nintendo's just, popping games on there for us?
I think it's just a way for them to, they've always had a bad online service. I think it's just a way to try to squeeze value and subscribers out of that service because a lot of people aren't really going to go for the service or think they need it or want to use it unless they're, really wanting to play those first-party Nintendo games online. I mean, there's so much sales still on Mario Kart 8, so I'm sure all those people want to play Mario Kart online with people. So adding more value, we talked about this last time, adding more value by having more of these old retro games available just is a good incentive to get people in. In this article, she's talking about how, if they do bring in newer stuff or more stuff, there's a potential they could have an upgraded service. So basic Nintendo Online, just NES and SNES games, and then Nintendo Switch Premier Pro Online Edition be like $5 more a month and get you N64 and Game Boy games. And I think that kind of does make the most sense because if they are thinking about putting N64 and Game Boy on there, I don't think there's going to be a huge splash if you announce just Game Boy. And if you announce N64, there will be a splash, but nobody's going to get excited later on down the road when you announce Game Boy then. So I think if they did release it as a premier product, that you had the two, like I said, the NES and the SNES on the regular, and then have a higher tier, include Game Boy and N64 on top of that for $5 extra a month. I mean, you're paying that $5 just for those. You're not going to get more online services or anything else for that additional money, just those two other retro consoles. And I think, like I said, you could only get this hype cycle so big. I think doing both of them at once is going to be much more effective than trying to do the two individually because nobody's really going to get that excited for doing this that many times.
Well, even consider this. What if Nintendo kind of goes back on what they've been doing in a sense, and you run into a situation where, they're saying, okay, well, $20 for just basic online service. Oh, $25 you get Nintendo. $30 you get Super Nintendo, Nintendo. $35, $40, and so on for each console. That could be something too that they end up doing.
There's not enough service there. And when
But it's a way to increase the revenue and put it towards those services potentially. But I mean, Nintendo has shown time and time again that they have the wonkiest online process of any of the big three companies out there for online gaming, and they act as if, you know, the way that their online service is set up, they act as if they're back in the PS2 era with like the, you know, the beginnings of broadband, and trying to get people set up online. I mean, I probably had easier access getting in online games on PlayStation 2 and Xbox growing up than I do on Nintendo Switch. Like, I think that's just what it kind of amounts to.
Yeah,
so,
I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, they're supposed to be doing that Nintendo Direct sometime this month, so
yeah,
they got a couple weeks left.
Is there anything in particular that you're like looking forward to? I mean, like the N64 library in general, to me, like a lot of people love it and think it's great, but they've already taken so many of those games and put them out. Like a lot of the classics, Majora's Mask, Link's Awakening, sorry.
What's out there that
Ocarina
you're
of Time.
not able to play that they're going to put out? Like, is there a way to play Jet Force Gemini right now? That would be a cool thing to have access to. But it's like, if you can't already just go on and play Mario 64 frickin' anywhere.
Yeah. But like, yeah, exactly. Mario 64 has been released however many times it's been released over the years. And then like Banjo-Kazooie and all that, is Microsoft going to allow them to put that on an online service? Are they going to allow any of the other Rare games on there? Donkey Kong obviously can go on there, but I don't think there's enough heavy hitters that haven't been, you know, re-released at some point in time over the last, you know, 15, 20 years, that it makes it like, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like super appealing. I guess if you had the N64 games years ago and got rid of them, and, you know, now you've gotten a Switch and you haven't had anything in years past, like this is your first Nintendo console in years, and you want your kids to kind of jump on it and grow up with these titles, and yeah, it makes sense. But for somebody like you and me, who have been picking these like retro titles up over the years as they get re-released, I'm not super stoked about it, to be honest.
Well, and like, I mean, my friend, he got the new phone also the other day.
Yeah.
And within 20 minutes of having, or no, this was yesterday. Yesterday he came over. He got the phone a few days ago. Yesterday he came over, and I have emulator on my phone with Paper Mario, and it looks awesome, especially on this big screen. Within 15 minutes, he downloaded Dolphin and was playing The 1,000-Year Door. So it's like, that's what Nintendo's competing against, is the ability for somebody to just have a dope-ass phone and pull up a GameCube game.
Yeah.
Like, when that's something you could do in 15 minutes, and it's taken Nintendo 5 years to get N64 games onto the Switch, like, I don't know, it's definitely something that people want, but I don't think it's stuff that people are going to use. Like, I don't think people are really playing a lot of the Nintendo games on the online service right now, and I don't think adding N64 is really going to bump that up a lot. I really think Game Boy is going to be a more successful approach.
I honestly think that both are going to be a failure, because Game Boy games haven't aged well in the years either.
But at least they're made for, like,
they're made for that handheld type. Yeah, I get it. Well, all right, let us know what you think. I just
always associate the Switch as the handheld system, because I hardly ever dock it and play.
See, I only play in docked, so for me it's a little different. But yeah, let us know in the comments on, you know, of course, this podcast application that you're listening to, if you have the ability to do so, or just on our social media pages. Give us your thoughts.
All right, next up.
Yep, the saga behind the new PS5 heatsink explained. And this is Kotaku, Ian Walker, who I want to say we had an article with last week and a week before that, and we read a lot of Ian Walker stuff.
You know, and I like the...
hashtag could be a sponsor.
I like the way he writes. I wrote a little note to myself. I like your writing. So I think that maybe everybody reacted really quickly to half a pound of missing metal in the PS5. And we kind of talked about this, and we thought, you know, we would have to wait and see what happens once they do some more testing and stuff. And now it seems like people are really committed to being in the middle and saying one way or the other that, you know, it might be bad, but we just don't think it really is going to be that effective. And then everybody else is like, okay, well, what about down the road?
Yeah, and that's what my worry is. Like, if you kind of consider the PS3, you know, the Xbox is different. Xbox, they were blowing out left and right the 360 years ago. But the PS3 took a while to get to that yellow light. You might have had a few heatsink issues here and there, or not heatsink, but like overheating to yellow light of death, all that good stuff. Later on the life cycle. But for me, I played a lot of my PS3, and it was probably about 4 to 5 years, I would say, before my PlayStation 3 just crapped out.
Was it a launch model?
It was a launch model. Yeah. So about 4 years, I would say, afterwards, it crapped out. And so it does make you wonder, looking at the issues the PS3 had, are we going to have those same issues with the PS5? Because of the thermal paste and whatnot that's on there. Are we going to have the same issues with the PS4? And then are we going to have the same issues with the PS5?
How much has thermal paste technology evolved in the last decade?
Look, I'm not the right person to ask on that one. That's usually the issue people have, and they say that after a few years, you probably want to redo the thermal paste on the back of your, I guess, the processor, on your PS4, PS5, and so
I
to
think
keep
there's
it going.
supposed to be better contact with this new heatsink.
Maybe, but that's the thing that everybody's speculating, right? So like it does run a little hotter. And even in this guy's article from he was referencing Gamer Nexus and something that they had done.
And Digital Foundry.
Shout
out to Digital Foundry. I feel like everybody shouts out Digital Foundry. I feel like they do so much heavy lifting for the industry, and we could all just quote them and feel good about it.
Yeah. But, they reference those guys, and they even found within the studies that there were some elements that were good and some elements that were worse. And so I really do think it's a wait-and-see approach. I'm kind of skeptical on buying a PS5 right now because I don't want to run into an issue
Just
where...
wait for the second gen. It'll be better.
Well, I mean, we're in a second gen technically because you've got, these new heat sinks and
wait for
all
the
these other
slim
changes.
gen.
Slim gen. I'm just thinking Slim Jims now.
Yeah.
We'll see. As long as it's got
Slim gens in September.
It's September. Oh, dude, I see your reference there. But yeah, so I'm thinking if there's a disc-based version on a slim model of PS5, I will pick it up at that point. But as of right now, I'm super skeptical. You can't find them anyways, so why even bother?
Right.
Yeah. But
I know,
yeah,
that's what people are saying is like, either way, they're so hard to get right now. People are just going to get what they're going to get. And the thing is, they're not going to make more old style ones moving forward. So I would wager how long do you think until that starts to become its own market where we're going to see a price break between the two models?
Well, I mean,
it'll have to wait until they're just ubiquitous enough to find.
It would be on the third-party market you have at issue, and it'd be similar to the PlayStation 3 of the backwards compatibility.
I don't think it's that big a deal, though. I don't think people are going to pay that much of a premium.
Never know. Depends on how much people panic over it. It'll be that situation with a disc-based model, for sure. If they get rid of the disc-based model down the road, that disc-based model is going to go for quite a bit.
Is a lot more akin to, but there's going to be way more disc-based models than there were those backwards compatible PS3s.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, the backwards compatible PS3, I think, was for a couple of years because
but they'll make disc-based models for more than just a couple of years.
Well, and then even like the 80 gig systems when they were released, they had backwards compatibility, but you had to download the software to do it. So.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
And they couldn't just release that software for any of the other fucking ones?
Well, I think they removed other stuff later on down the road. Because I think with those, you had to have like 2 laser eyes to be able to read them, if I recall.
Can't they just make better lasers?
I don't know.
How will we be ready to fight the Decepticons when they come?
We won't be. That's the problem. We won't be ready to fight the Decepticons.
This is all your fault.
That's why we highly need the Autobots. That's why they're here, Ryan. That's why that truck sitting at the corner of the road is there, just in case. You never know.
Just in case.
There's farmland everywhere around here, so who knows?
Tractortron.
Tractortron. All right, let's
Tractor Miss Prime.
Oh my God.
I remember back in my day.
He's
like an old pickup robot.
He's like shucking corn as Optimus. Okay, so the third article that we have here. China's setting up a platform to police gaming firm violations. This is actually the Associated Press at ABC News. So this kind of tells you where this one's at. So we had talked about this a while back that China was pretty much limiting gaming for kids. I don't remember the age group in which it stops, but pretty much saying they can game from the hours of 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 1 hour each day. And this is actually lower. It used to be an hour and a half.
Yeah, and this is online games.
Yeah.
We don't know yet if there's going to be an enforcement or how it would work to enforce single player games. I mean, there is DRM for always online for single player games on certain games. And if China was to try to like mandate that as like a universal release criteria for China, then I guess that would be just one thing. I think that the reaction of this is going to be huge, but in a way that I probably can't predict yet. Like, anything this restrictive and tight of a lockdown has got to have some kind of backlash. And whether that's going to be like more like, I don't know, people just kind of rebelling and trying to get online however they can, or whether it's going to like bleed out in other areas. It's just such a bad idea.
Well, I mean, that's just that country and how they manage things, and it's different from what we've got here, obviously in the States. But what I wonder is, how is this going? Like, okay, so enforcement wise, right? Say you're a parent and you're like, I don't give a shit if my kid is playing, 3-4 hours after school on like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But what happens when that kid goes to school the next day and is bragging to his buddy that his parents are letting him play 3 hours every day?
Well, then you get a bad social credit and they take away your ability to use public transportation.
But think about the fact that, like, when this happens, these kids are going to be ratting to each other's parents. Oh, well, so-and-so gets to play whatever.
The whole system they're talking about. They built this rat system just like they did with that stupid shit in Texas.
This is for companies.
Yeah.
So this is gaming firms that are breaking that violation. I'm talking parents that are knowingly breaking it because they don't care, and other families ratting out those families.
Yeah, well, that's already a thing. Like, you already get ratted on in China for doing anything with that social credit system they have.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a scary place. There's and I also was just listening to a podcast on the way here. Apparently, the day that China adopted this, South Korea just lifted a gaming restriction ban, curfew thing that they had.
Interesting.
And
it makes you
it
wonder.
Just shows you how things change in the world, and like, how like there's these systems where they want everybody to like keep tabs on each other for the government and for corporations and for other shitty people to make money off of people just like taking advantage of each other. It's such a monster of a horrible thing.
Well, and that's what bugs me about, like, and not to get political, but like some of the directions some people want us to go, and other countries in the world with like more government power on things like this right here is, I mean, we're not going to become a communist nation by all means, not anytime soon, but this right here is scary stuff.
They're coming for our poo.
They're coming for did you say Apu or
our poo?
Winnie the Pooh. Oh, Winnie the Pooh. Okay. Okay.
They already got him in China.
I was like, they already got Apu in The Simpsons years ago. He was canceled a long time ago. But yeah, I mean, I can just see this as an issue for other countries down the road. Like, can you imagine other countries in the world adopting this type of methodology on gaming and what that means for the industry as a whole?
Can you imagine what it would do to American kids' test scores?
That's
true. How bad we would look?
That's true. We would actually look really good. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, the rest of the world implements it but us.
Everybody else is playing 3 hours of video games a week. Meanwhile, U.S. teenagers TikTok.
Hey, but you know what?
TikTok and party dance.
Just like the Olympics, we'll be conquering the esports world.
There we go.
So we won't have to worry about. We're training our youth in esports. That's the future. Yeah, that actually kind of, I thought about that too. It's like esports is becoming such a big thing on a global basis.
And the Chinese teams are so good.
And yet all of these kids are being limited to like 1 hour.
Yeah. It's going to destroy esports. Like, they're not going to be, I mean, unless they can somehow get onto like
a team
unmonitored servers that they can practice on, they're not going to have enough time to compete.
Yeah. Or maybe there's like,
you got to play like 60 hours a week. At least.
It's kind of insane. Or maybe there's like a team specifically that they can join, and kind of like a club
like
of some
sort. Like a government sanctioned thing?
Yeah, something along those lines where the government has oversight into what they're doing and allows for playtime and everything else.
They're definitely going to want to keep competing on the world scale. Like, knowing how good China is, like, there's no way they just say, okay, well, I guess we'll just be the worst at Dota 2 and just take that hit.
Can you imagine that? Like, China's like, yeah, we'll just be the worst at Dota 2 moving forward.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think it's definitely an interesting situation overall to like keep your eye on. I would consider world news for the most part. Like, this is actually bigger than a lot of the topics that we talk about. Like, this could have ramifications for like a lot of other nations, especially if China's like, look how successful this is. Look how our students are now, A+ students, and they go outside and they join multiple sports teams and do all these crazy studies. Does the rest of the world try to start following suit and doing something like this? So
I mean, and this is the other thing that's interesting about this. Usually when you see video game stuff in the news, it's like the loot box thing or violence, and it's kind of stuff where it's like, well, is it this or is it that, and how are we going to react to it? And it's a slow build and stuff. This is just the government saying no.
Well, and
they're just slamming their fist down and taking it into it. Nobody's really done that. Even with the loot box thing, like, it took forever for them to be like, these are gambling, and then they even still were like, no, we're not even going to take it down.
Well, and this is trying to like curb gaming addiction for children, but like, I grew up playing a crap ton of games when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
And, I get it. Not everybody's the same. Not everybody's raised in the same manner. Not everybody has the same type of self-control in their day-to-day life. But, that kind of comes down to parenting in a sense,
I think games are different now, though. Like, the way that games are made is not like the same Skinner box technology wasn't like a thing when we were kids. They weren't like trying to like Fortnite their way into your brain and steal your wallet. They were literally just trying to sell you whatever they could for $50.
But and that's a problem I have, right? Is this an issue with gaming addiction in children and bad parenting, or is this a situation where governments need to step up their game against the actual developers of these games and the giant corporations that are trying to push the loot boxes and the addiction-based things down these children's throats? That's the thing. Gaming in general isn't bad. In fact, there's a lot of educational components to gaming. It's the addiction part that I understand, but why are you blaming the children and parents for this? Go to the source of it. Like, if you,
I think you blame the parents.
Well, yeah, you can. But like, think about this. Like with cigarettes, right? If you're going to put a ban on cigarettes, for example, do you blame the 12-year-old kid who decided he's going to pick up smoking because his friends picked it up and he happened to get a cigarette? Like, are you going to ban him and say you can only smoke 1 hour a week? Or are you going to go after the company itself that's targeting children?
Right.
You're going to go after a company targeting children. So why are we taking, the gaming industry and saying, oh, well, let's go ahead and target the kids and the parents and limit them?
Regulate games the way that you regulate drugs.
You totally can.
It's not the same.
We have a rating system, for God's sakes, where like things have to change in games to make sure that it's market ready. They could totally do that and say, this content is not allowed. We will not approve this, or you need to patch this out. Like we're in an era where they can make changes on a whim. Like they can remove entire sections of code if they want to. Well, and
they do that like all the time, like those games that like, now that you have to disclose on the box that it has loot crates and stuff,
yeah,
they release it without it, and then they patch it in after launch so that it doesn't even go on the box art.
I know,
and have to get approval.
Yeah, so why are we going after families when we really should be going after like EA and such?
Greedy EA.
Yeah. Well, enough on that. Let us know in the comments what you think. You'll probably see this on Facebook as a post of some sort for you to comment on anyways.
So do it.
Our inflation deflation for this week: Kruty Super Funhouse. What is that? Audiogenic. I need to get better glasses. Yeah, Audiogenic is a developer. Acclaim is a publisher. Designed by Fox Williams. Funny enough, because it's Fox. Released in June of 1992. It is a puzzle. I would say puzzle-based platformer, not just puzzle game.
That's what I was thinking, but I don't know that the platforming really has any bearing, because there's no like, you don't die.
Yeah, but there's enemies.
Nothing like the platforming is just how you move.
Hey, if I gotta jump on platforms, this is a platformer. So I would consider it a puzzle platformer, although it's a puzzle
Super
game.
Smash Bros.
Super Smash Bros. Platformer. Yeah, there are platforms in some stages. But the reception on this was surprisingly like
crazy.
A 7 to 9 with a lot of 9s.
Yeah, there was like a 90, a 91. This got some high ratings. Entertainment Weekly gave it A-.
Yeah, it was up for like best NES game of the year or some crap like that.
Yeah, from Nintendo Power.
Yeah. So
craziness.
Overall thoughts on this. Kruty, like you said while we were playing, was not the Kruty you envisioned. He wasn't depressed. He was happy. There was, for this game in particular, we had like 8 rooms, I think.
This
that we had
is
to
like
go
a
through.
Lemming style or a Mario vs. Donkey Kong style, where there's like minions things that you got to get from one part of the stage to another using puzzle elements.
Yeah, and so you have these rats that are in Krusty's funhouse, and he needs to basically smash them or lead them through pipes to a little box where Bart Simpson is noted with like a hammer and like smashing rats. And so you got to use certain elements, as Ryan said, to get them to climb over obstacles to get to these pipes, and of course into this area where they are smashed by Bart.
Pretty basic.
Yeah, pretty straightforward puzzle game. And, the puzzles were actually, there was a few that were not quite challenging, but there was a few where I was like, wait.
You had to think.
I can put this here. There was one where I messed up. I'm like, oh, crap. I got to restart the level and do it all over because I should have done it on this side versus the other. And it was pretty interesting. Like, at first, I was like, man, this is like the worst game we've ever played. And then it started to grow on me. Now, this is actually a pretty decent puzzle game with some cool elements. What bugged me is like after we got through the number of levels that we got through and we had like the golden lock door, I was just like, we were already so far in at that point and ready to stop. I was
there's
like,
really
well,
no
can't
sense
open it.
of progression. Like after you beat a level, there's not really any like, okay, now what? Like there's no like real conclusion to it. So moving forward was very much like, I guess you just kind of choose your level, do the puzzle, come back. We didn't make it all the way through, but the reviews really only led us to believe that there was about a half hour of fun to be had with the game to begin with.
Well, I made it all the way through 7 of the 8. Mm-hmm. And you were kind of like, well, time-wise, we got to get the recording and such. And, could we have gotten to that last level in that last puzzle area? Sure.
Maybe there's even another room of puzzles after that. Because I got to imagine there got to be more than 10 puzzles in the game.
Oh,
I would
for
hope.
Sure. Yeah, I would hope so. But we'll have to watch a YouTube review on it and see how far they get in that one. Like, how long in general is this game? I would probably gather that it's probably a few more rooms like that. There might be like 30 puzzles in total, I would think.
As a game, it was okay. As a Simpsons game, there was a couple Krusty lines in there.
But
and
other than that,
some
nothing.
of the stuff, it had like Otto in the background. It had Moe's Tavern sign. It had Bart standing next to a thing.
It was bare bones.
It's very bare bones, very not. This also was on everything, basically. So when this came out in 92, it released like all the way from DOS to Genesis and everything in between. So it probably was the same game, but just toned up a little down for the graphics. So it wasn't really going to be a whole lot better than what you would get on a Game Boy, really.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you on that. It just wasn't, at the end of the day, it didn't feel like there was a lot going for it. We played Simpsons Road Rage, which obviously you couldn't record with us last week and discuss that one, but that has a lot of Simpsons references, of course. And yeah, it's, a later game in terms of PS2, but even like Hit and Run, same deal, man. Like tons and tons of Simpsons references. And I think even when you look at like, Bart's Nightmare and like the mutant one and such, there's got to be more elements to Simpsons in those games, even though I actually haven't played those outside of like the Simpsons arcade. There's a lot of Simpsons references in those other games. This one was just very, I don't know, felt empty. Didn't feel very Simpsons-esque. And granted, it's a Krusty game, so it makes sense that there wouldn't be a ton of Simpsons, but there was enough that it kind of just felt like they were masking it, right? Moe's Tavern sign in the background, a poster with Otto, a poster
just kind of
with,
a lazy approach.
Yeah, it was just very, very lazy.
I wouldn't even say lazy, like, it was just an early game.
Yeah, but there's other earlier games that came out on Simpsons that were better. At least I would think, as far as referrals are concerned.
Yeah.
Or references are concerned. Yeah, so, at the end of the day, though, yes, it was a lazy game and how it was created, but when you start looking at the puzzle elements and the controls and how everything kind of worked out and the overall gameplay.
The bizarre choice to go with a Krusty game.
Yeah, that's
like, I almost wonder if this was just another game and they just, like,
to differentiate, to, like,
adapted
Krusty.
it to license. Because it was like, okay, if we throw Simpsons on here, it'll sell way better than whatever the original idea was. Because Krusty's an odd choice for a main character, especially because it's only like 4 seasons into The Simpsons by 92, right? It started in 88?
Actually, it's only like 3 years into Simpsons.
Okay.
And in June, because it was Christmas of 89, I think was the first episode. So you're looking at
that's right.
90, 91, like 2.5 years.
Yeah, so it's weird that Krusty the Clown gets his own game that early. I mean, by then it was a big hit, but it wasn't like a cultural icon yet.
Yeah, and Krusty being the main one that, like you said. But, I think in those earlier episodes, Krusty is a big component of Bart's life in the show. So it would make sense to have, because they had the Bart games. So you got, America's Bad Boy and Bart Simpson, and then his icon Krusty with a game as well. I could see why they would release something like that. Here's the deal. On a 10 scale, I would say the game is like an
it's
8.
right here in the 3 lines of development on the wiki I didn't read. Originally released as Rat Trap on the Commodore Amiga, it was developed by Fox Williams for the British software house Audiogenic, who licensed it to Acclaim Entertainment, the US-based publishers of a range of games based on The Simpsons.
Yeah, so that's our answer right there. So that alone just kind of...
a whole other game.
And just to kind of reiterate, Ryan and I don't do a huge deep dive on the history of some of these games. We like to sit back and enjoy it and kind of discuss like this, like we're doing. And yeah, I mean, you kind of called it right off the bat that this game felt lazy. It felt like it was something that was not meant to be The Simpsons and was just kind of masked over. And yeah, you're right. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. You were a little pink-haired kid.
Yeah. So overall, I mean, and that's the thing. Like overall, I would say an 8. If you're looking at it on a scale of 10. Oh, yeah. Yeah, dude, that looks so much better, too. Why throw Krusty in there?
Why aren't the rats, like, scratchy looking?
That's true. Why aren't they?
Or itchy.
Itchy. And why isn't Scratchy in there instead of the
it should be an
snakes?
itchy and scratchy game instead of a Krusty game altogether.
Yeah, that's, you know what? And at the end of the day, that's just...
Although, then you would have to have the Capstein because...
Yeah, that's
he
true.
always loses.
Well, yeah, that's why you replace the snakes with Scratchy.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. But, I can see why he wouldn't have been in there because, like you said, it was just masked over. It was something quick to get in the market and throw the Simpsons name on it.
All right, brass tacks.
Yeah, brass tacks. So, most expensive version, you're looking at a PAL SNES complete in box copy at $50.73. Cheapest version is a PAL SNES copy loose at $11.12. Complete in box is running you $42.99, peaked at $54.95.
And this is just the Super Funhouse. I didn't include the regular Funhouse versions.
Yeah, well, I mean, Super because it's Super
cheapest.
Nintendo.
Yeah.
$42.99 complete in box, peaked at $54.95 in March of 2015. That is trending downward. Loose copy is going to run you $16.51. That is actually at the peak right now, continuing to trend up like pretty much all retro games. I would say this game in particular, I would not pay anything more than $10 for this game.
All right. I've got a different opinion on this. Follow me on this one. $20.53. You can get a complete inbox of the PAL Sega Mega Drive version. It's a decent box art for $20. I'd buy it.
Do you have a PAL version Mega Drive system?
Okay, no. If you want the Genesis version, 26.
Okay.
26 is a reasonable amount, I think, for a
complete
nice,
in-box.
Yeah,
Yeah.
complete in-box. Like, it's definitely not the best game ever, but if you're a Simpsons person, it'll look good on a shelf.
Well, and this is a game that was released on a crap ton of consoles, so you have the ability and flexibility to jump onto different versions. You don't have to buy the Super Nintendo version of this one in particular. And if you are looking to buy a Super Nintendo, definitely would say don't pay any more than $10. It is not worth it for anything above that.
Yeah, I guess it's just
I would say it's inflated for sure.
Yeah, probably inflated. It's not really a great game, and everything's inflated right now, so it's kind of easy to say that it's inflated. So I'll go inflated too. We'll just go full on inflated on this one, just because the way the market is right now. But I mean, if you want a cool Simpsons box art, go with whatever the cheapest one that you want on your shelf is.
So we got to figure out next week. I think our options are there's like the Simpsons game on PS3, which I'm pretty sure I have, but I'll double check. And then we've got the NES versions that we can look into as well.
And we've got episode 150.
That is true. So we got to figure out something special for episode 150. I don't know what we're going to discuss, dude.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Maybe we play
150 things that you never heard us say you always wanted to hear us say.
Starting from A.
All these games are free.
That would be nice. Well, Yeah, I mean, this is episode 149 of the Game Deflators Podcast. We'll be back at you next week with some sort of Simpsons game, some sort of news, something special for episode 150. We have no flipping idea. I don't know, maybe we'll do a giveaway or something. I got some loose games. Yeah, we could probably do a giveaway. Oh, we'll figure it out. Well, if you're listening here, I don't know, tag us on social media. Say, I want a giveaway.
I want a giveaway.
I want a giveaway. All right.
I want Krusty's Super Fun House.
I think I actually have an extra copy of that.
Tell us if you want an extra copy of Krusty's Super Fun House.
Yeah, we'll put you in a raffle. All right, well, this is episode 149 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John.
I'm Ryan.
And thanks for listening.